Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I'm coming to you live from Florida. And if you haven't come across my content before, I work with people on a spiritual journey, on a healing journey, taking their darkest moments and transforming them into stepping stones for growth. I talk about post-traumatic growth all the time and using what seems to be breaking us to actually propel us forward. We can always shed light onto dark times, and they seem to just vanish. Today is Monday, and we do book club on Mondays. So this week, we are in the Power of Now with Eckhart Tolle. Book club members joining me live. As you get here, please just let me know that you're here and say hello in the chat. With the Power of Now, if you haven't been part of book club, I promise you this conversation today is something that you will enjoy. You don't have to have read the book. We really just take some of the things and principles that are being taught and we expound upon them, sharing our own stories. I share insights, things like that as they come along. And if you would like to be part of book club, we have a Telegram chat you can join for conversation in between. We meet live every single Monday at noon Eastern time. If you're catching the replay, just put replay in the comments and let me know that you caught us on the replay. I absolutely interact with everything that I see. So if you have questions, if you have your own insights, as we discuss this together, it gets more and more profound. This book, I had the person that recommended this to me said, Danielle, if there was one book that you could read in a lifetime and you only had one choice, this would be the book. And with that kind of endorsement, I thought, all right, well, I better read this book. If this is the one and only, I better read it. If you get value from this throughout, please share it on your page. I would love for this content to get in front of more people and for people to really connect with it. So book club members that are here, say hello. I see many of you now on live watching. It's good to see you. It's good to be here. I hope that you are loving the book. And we didn't quite get to where I had dropped us off at last week. So I want to start back. I want to start at page 12 and we're going to go through page 26. We're biting off a lot this week, a lot to cover. Next week, we will be in chapter 2. So chapter 2 is just 10 pages, so I think we can get through that. But with the chapter that we're in now, I want to just kind of dive right in. So for those of you live with me, if there was something that stuck out to you, a quote that really hit you, something you had a question about, of course, put it in the chat. We'll discuss it here together as a community. But I want to take us in. I'm going to start us at chapter 1, number 12. It says, what's the greatest obstacle to experiencing this reality? So basically, he writes this book. I really like how he writes it. He's writing it in a question answer format, saying look, as a spiritual teacher, these are the common things that most people are asking, and us as human beings are probably asking the same question. So this question is basically, what's the greatest obstacle to being able to experience life without the mind getting in the way? And he says, identification with your mind, which causes thought to become compulsive, not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction, but we don't realize this because almost everybody is suffering from it, so it's considered normal. I don't know if any of you have found this, but as you've kind of been on your spiritual journey, you've been on this personal development journey, you've been learning more about yourself, have you felt kind of alone? Like you don't resonate with maybe the people you used to resonate with? Put a 1 in the chat if that's you. I think that this is normal because you start to realize hang on a second, everybody's caught in this game that's not real. And as you start to realize your own thoughts aren't you and there's more to life, you kind of disengage from them. And, then you don't even want to get into conversations sometimes that just don't feel as important. Yeah, Lynn's saying 1. She's there. She's felt it. He says, the compulsive thinker lives in a state of apparent separateness. In an insanely complex world of continuous problems and conflict, a world that reflects the ever-increasing fragmentation of the mind, enlightenment is a state of wholeness, of being at one and therefore at peace. So I've got yin-yangs everywhere. I keep one on my desk because to me, it's life is full of polarity. Life is absolutely full of polarity. It has good and bad times. It has, intense things. It has pleasurable things. It has sadness and it has happiness. It has all these things. And what he's saying is that when the mind gets engaged in liking certain things or disliking certain things or however it may be, it pulls away from its essence, its being. But when you can just be okay with whatever is, like, you're whole again. And that wholeness, that being is it. It's the thing that sits behind all the thoughts that bounce between, the dark and the light. So this symbol to me helps so much. And that's why I also, have it over my shoulder. Lou says, it seems like my sister grows with me toward enlightenment. Lucky you. That's wonderful. Tina says, hi, number one, I like being in the moment. I like the being in the moment exercise. Yeah, really good. Really, really good. So I liked this special note that he said. I had literally put like, wow. He says, a little note to self on page 13. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. To put it more accurately, it is not so much that you use your mind wrongly. You usually don't use it at all. It uses you. This is a disease. You believe that you are your mind. This is the delusion. The instrument has taken you over. Think about that. It's as if, like, say the mind is like a pair of glasses. And we as witness are looking. And we realize that, well, glasses are a very helpful instrument to see. The mind is a very helpful instrument to take in the world. But we get so distracted by, like, just looking through the glasses as the witness. We think, well, we are the glasses, and this all there is all there is. And what Eckhart Tolle keeps reminding us is, like, listen, take the glasses off. Like, you don't have to only look through the glasses. You can look at the glasses. You can realize that there is way more to all of this. And sometimes it's helpful to have the mind to perceive things, but sometimes it's not. Because sometimes that mind is just looking at, terrible thoughts. It's looking at stuff from its past. It's like not really, shaping the truth of the reality. Hey, Shar, good day to you too. I hope that helps, because that visual, when he said it uses you, it's like the mind takes over and says, okay, like, you are going to focus here and only here, and this is what you're going to be obsessed with, and you can't be happy until you get this thing I'm looking at in the future, and don't try to do anything else. You need to stay right here. And so this incredible being that we are, all of it gets pulled into the mind, and it's like, what a small thing to look through. Like, there's so much more, and yet, boom, here we are, stuck in this. It's wild when you think about it that way. I never thought about, like, the mind is abusive. The ego it's mischievous, and it torments you by just making you only look through it. And it only exists by having you there, right? The glasses, just like your mind, it needs something to perceive through it in order for it to really have any use and be in existence. So, how many of you have found the off button? I like that he asked this question. He says, have you ever found the off button to your thoughts? Put a 1 if you found the off button. Put a 2 if you're like, no, my mind is always going. Absolutely always going. Yes, Lou, it is like having blinders on when you've got, that happening. So Lynn says she has been able to find the off switch. I have also been able to find the off switch. Juliet has been able to find the off switch. What has helped you find it? Karen's been able to. Yeah, anyone not? Like, there's people that I know, me for a long, long time, I could never turn it off. It was like my mind was constantly going. For those of you that said 1, what turns it off for you? For me, it's meditation. It's time outside. It's time in nature. It's being super absorbed in the moment. Robin says meditation for her, like cooking a recipe. I think cooking is very, like, you're super just focused. Skiing, yeah, it's like when you have to be so present, it's like that's when all the chatter is quiet. Marie says she's a 1-2. Sometimes she can't turn it off, but she's experienced it. Yep. All of those things. Yeah, those are the secret hacks, right? Those are the secrets. All right, so that finishes out where I was trying to get us last time, and I want to talk about the last kind of bit I underlined in that part. It goes from 13 to 14. He says, it's almost as if you were possessed without knowing it, and so you take the possessing entity to be yourself. But the moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. And it's interesting because the mind doesn't want to die. The mind is only in existence because we give it that, right? Because we look through it, and therefore we allow it to exist. And I think there's a really interesting from the Bible. You know, Jesus says in the Bible, it says something along the lines of, "You must die to be reborn." And this is that to me. It's like the mind, the ego, this thing that has taken over everything has to die. It has to dissolve. It has to go away. It has to be disempowered. It has to go be set over here so that you can be reborn in the truth of who you are, connected to the infinite, right? Not just, identified as this tiny little thing. Like, that has to die in order for you to be reborn. I think that at least is the interpretation I take from those words, and it makes sense based on, this text, things we've heard from Wayne Dyer. Tina says she's still working on getting the thoughts to quiet down. I get it. Tanya says meditation, yoga, and nature do it for her. Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into this this next bit. He says, you see and judge the present moment through the eyes of the past, and you get totally a distorted view. It's as if, you look through this lens of life, the mind, through the lens of the past, through, hey, well, I've already experienced that and I didn't like it, or I did like it. And so when you look at the present moment, you're not present because you have this lens, this mind that's actually playing this up against all the things that you liked and didn't like from, previous aspects of your life, the past. And so I would like to know, this mind of yours that's causing you to look through a lens, is it a tormentor or is it nice? He says most of us live with a tormentor in our own heads, that continuously attacks and punishes them and drains them of their vital energy. Does this mind of yours continually drain you? Put a 1 if yours is like a tormentor most of the time. Put a 2 if your mind is like peaceful. If your mind is like, you know what? It just takes things in and it doesn't have preference. It just allows it all. Anyone in that space? Hey, Christy. Good to see you guys over there on Instagram. How many of you have a tormentor in your head? It's like wild to watch what our mind does. And to get into the space, once you get to the space where you can watch the thinker, where you're not so absorbed, not realizing you're wearing the glasses, where you can like pull it over here, it gets a lot easier. Oh, some of you are saying, I'm freezing. Oh no, you're there with me. Juliet says both happened to her. Yeah. It's nice. Sometimes it's not nice. Okay. Yeah. I think that's the reality for most of us. And what he's telling us is that, we need to learn to disidentify from those thoughts. Lynn says she's got peaceful periods of disrupted tranquility. Fascinating to watch. Yeah. Once you realize that this is happening and you start to see the mind going, it's like step 1 is realization. Step 1 is realizing, oh, I'm more than my thoughts. I am not my mind. There is something there watching it, right? Like the person sitting on the shore watching the boat come across its vision. Sometimes the mind takes over and it's all that we can see, but we are in fact watching it and it does in fact leave. So once you realize this is when you can start to disidentify. And you can create space and you can say, wait a second, just because this thought came up doesn't mean I have to engage with it. Because a lot of those thoughts are tormenting. They're painful. They're intense. They're nasty. It's like if you said those things out loud, people probably wouldn't want to hang out with you. Some of the ways the mind goes. But when you can disidentify, and this is what he says is like the key step, this is how you watch the thinker, is you have to disidentify from it and then allow yourself to be fully present. And you will realize, wow, this is consciousness. Like when I step back, I am in the presence of pure consciousness. And I can watch this crazy little mind of mine. And I realize the power of who I truly am. There's a beautiful visual. I don't have a way to draw, but if you can just stay with me here. Think about an ocean with waves. It's as if the wave coming up into, the air, into the atmosphere. It's expressing itself. It's out and it's looking and it's like, wow, there's birds and there's sun and there's all these things out here. And it starts to think that that's all there is because it's everything that it's seen. It's like that wave all of a sudden realizing, like, hang on, I'm only here because I'm an expression of the vast ocean. I am the ocean. The ocean and I are one. And this is, to me, this is like, when you realize that you as a human being are an expression of this divinity, of this consciousness, of this divine, all of a sudden you realize, wow, well, I came here to experience and look around, but none of this can really hurt me. And all of this interpretation that my mind is having is kind of just chatter that doesn't matter, because guess of the truth of who I am. Like, I am that divine being. Are you all with me there? Does that ocean and wave make sense? Give me a high five. If yes, put a 5 in the chat. If you're like, yes, I get it, that's great. Put a question mark if you're like, I'm still lost. I do not know how to be the witness. I do not know how to, have a realization that I'm more than my mind. Where are we? Are we out of 5? Are you with me? Are we high-fiving? Or are you like, no? Karen's with me. Lou's with me. Nice. I think there's a bit of a delay today. I think some people hopped on a little late, so we're like a little bit behind with what I'm saying for some that are viewing. Lou says a 5. Nice. This is key. He says basically there's 2 ways to get to this place beyond the mind. Option 1 is by watching the thinker. It's by like just looking at it and going like, huh, isn't that interesting? The mind's over here wanting me to scream. It's wanting me to be angry. But I'm not going to go over there and look through life through that lens, right? I'm just going to watch it knowing that anger is going to pass. And then maybe happiness comes in. And then maybe sadness comes in. And then maybe peace comes in. And then who knows what else comes in. It's like the weather rolling through the sky. These things come in. And you can choose to engage fully as if that's all you see. Or you can witness it and go, okay, what do I want to do with this thought that's here? What do I want to do with this emotion that has arrived? It's trickier when it's emotions, right? He got into that in this chapter, and I was like, oh yeah, that's where the work really begins. But he says the option two for us is just to simply be present. And that was what you guys were putting in the chat. That sometimes in order to quiet the mind, you allow yourself to be fully present. Maybe it's something like skiing, where if you're not present, you're probably going to hurt yourself. So you have to be fully engaged in what you're doing. This is why so many spiritual practices talk about being present. If you're cooking, usually you're very present. If you're doing yoga poses, you have to be very present, right? Because you're very conscious about what is happening in this exact moment. And that is another doorway into this space where you can quiet that crazy mind. You can allow the mind to just turn off and for all that chatter and noise to go down. Juliet says, exchange judgment with curiosity. Yes, don't judge yourself. So when emotions pop up, like what's the most common emotion? Let's go there. What is the most common emotion that pops up for you? That you're like, it gets you every time it pops up. Okay, when I say common, I mean the one that like you're not able to just witness, that it just like grips you and you're like poof and you go. For me, it's anger. When anger pops up, that's probably, and like it takes a lot to get me angry, but when anger pops up, I just like, it's like it just absorbs me and I go. It's very hard for me to leave anger just over here. Like it rages in my system. Probably because there's so much for me to get to the point where like I get angry that then when it comes, I'm like, I put it on and I'm like, rawr. What emotion is it for you? Is it sadness? Like, are you unable maybe to be with sadness? Is it when sadness comes that it like absolutely just, it takes you over? What is it for you? I'm very curious about this because he says that it's super common. Like one of the most common questions that he gets is, what do you do with emotions when they come? Because these emotions seem to like take over in such a massive way, and people don't know what to do. He says, the most common question, I get caught up in my emotions more than I get caught up in my mind. Okay, depression, anger, definitely one. These are the things I'm seeing in the chat. Yeah. These are common because they're so intense. Anxiety. I think I think anxiety is one that pulls a lot of people. Christy says frustration fueled anger gets me. Yeah, when you're frustrated with something. Frustration, I think, is a tough one for a lot of people. It's it's interesting to watch, and then you go, well, that's where my work is, and you don't judge yourself. As Juliet says, don't judge the fact that you engage with that. See how quickly you can pull yourself back, and then be curious about it and go, yeah, I wonder why that always gets me. Like, what is it within me? And okay, what can I skillfully do next time so I can have a more skillful response? If it's like in a moment and it's an argument and someone's yelling at you and you're like, well, I need to defend myself and I got to yell back. See if instead, maybe you just say, I need a moment, and you walk away. You walk away and you go outside and you ground yourself, or you go for a swim, or you go for a bike ride, or you go take a shower, or you go meditate, or you go do something that just allows your equilibrium to come back. Tina says fear, doubt, impatience, anger, sadness, anxiety. Yeah, these emotions, I think most of us have difficulty with because they're so intense. I'm not seeing people saying they have a hard time when happiness comes in. But this is that. Like, we're like, oh, when pleasure's here, I love it. When happiness is here, I love it. And I'm totally fine with it. Well, can you be fine with anxiety? And can you be fine with impatience? And can you be fine with anger and sadness and depression? Can you just be fine with it? Just allow it to be. Because until you allow it to be, it's just going to hang around. And it's going to become like a pain in your body somewhere if you don't let it pass through. Like, you got to let it be. Just like you let, all the pleasurable things be. And then you're not living in duality. You're living in wholeness. You're realizing like, oh, I am that which allows all to be there. My mind is the one that has preference. Like, think about an infant. When an infant screams, an infant can literally move from giggling and laughing and happiness to screaming bloody murder and being so upset in seconds. And it doesn't judge itself. Because it doesn't have the mind there saying like, oh, it's wrong to scream. Don't ask for help. Don't bother people. You need to be this way because you get more love and you get a nice response from people when you're this way. It doesn't have that mind yet. It's just in the totality of who it is. It's allowing those emotions that are coming through, which are normal for the human experience. The infant just expresses them, flowing from one to the other and one to the other and one to the other, because it's in its beingness. The mind hasn't developed enough. We, as adults, have this mind, and we're like, well, it's not appropriate for me to scream at the job. And like, no, maybe it's not, but you can let the anger be there. You don't have to repress it. You can skillfully allow it to be in your world. Making sense? When I think of infants, I just love it because they're just this like beautiful, beautiful flow. All right. Juliet says, dissociate from the moment. Yes, physically step away. Yeah, if you can. You don't want to like go into la la land and have like a bypass of it, right? You need to be with it and allow it to flow. But it's good to just, get yourself some space. Absolutely. Guys, if you're getting value from this, please share it. Share it to your page. Share it so others see this. This is something that I think so many people, if they understood these teachings, would just have an easier time at life. Invite them to book club. Get them in our Telegram chat, right? Invite them to come on Mondays. What he says here is, why should we be addicted to thinking? And he's talking a lot. This is like a question people have. And he's talking a lot about how you derive your sense of self from the content and activity of your mind. And you get a false sense of self created by the unconscious identification with the mind. I think page 18 to me had the best explanation of what your ego mind is. And what came to me was an analogy that, like think about a container or a glass. Right now you would say this is water. And if I were to pour it out and, pour something dark in, you might say, oh, that's tea. That's coffee. And then you take that out and you pour soda in, take it out, pour lemonade in. And, you're identifying this by the contents of the container. But it's actually just the container. It's pure capacity for something to be in it. It isn't water. It isn't lemonade. It isn't coffee. It isn't tea. It's none of those things. Even though at times that's what's in there, it's really just the capacity for those things to move in and out. And the truth is the same about you. You are just a container. You are just a vessel that happiness can move into, that sadness can move into. You're a vessel that your job moves into, that your kids move into, that your house and home move in and through, right? These objects, these way of identifying ourselves in the world, these emotions, these are all aspects that come in and out of the cup, the container that is you, but none of them are you. And what happens is it's so easy to say, this is water. I am a teacher. I am X, I am Y, I am Z. It's so easy for us to just like completely identify with the thing that's in the container, with our job, with our things, with our belongings, with our kids. I'm a mom of, whatever. I see Alyssa here. I'm a mom of 3, right? It's so easy to get just super engaged by what's in there. And the truth is, you're not any of that. And I had this lesson come so hard, so fast, when I had my car accident. I had been so identified as Danielle is the top performer in school. Danielle gives back to her community because she teaches in a low-income area. Danielle's a snowboarder. Danielle's blah, blah, blah. A great friend, a great girlfriend, a great daughter, a great granddaughter. I was identified as like all these things that had been in my container. It's truth, like there's water in there. Those things were true about this, Danielle. But then it was like my accident happened. All those things got poured out of the container. I couldn't snowboard. I couldn't teach. I couldn't, I wasn't nice to be around because I was in pain all the time. Like I wasn't any of the things I had been before. And I felt so empty because when there's no contents in here, it's confusing. It's super confusing because we so long have thought, well, I'm the thing that is within me, right? I'm the emotion. I'm the achievement. I'm whatever. For so long, we've been so identified with that when those contents pour out, as they did for me, I didn't know what was up, what was down, and who I was. And it caused me to start questioning. And that's when I realized, like, I'm not my mind. I'm not my achievements. I'm not the water. I'm not the lemonade. I'm not the tea. I'm not the snowboarder, the teacher, the any of that. I am that which allows all of those experiences to move through. I'm the container. And, like, let's enjoy the experiences that are there. Embrace them because they're going to move away, right? They're going to move away. This body that I'm in, it's going to change. It's going to move. Right now I'm sunburned, right? I'm just embracing the sunburn, right? Because this body right now is going through that and it's going to move through. And we all know, right? Those of you that have the secret of redox, this is helping that burn move through quickly. But, this is, to me, when you get the essence of this, it's everything, because then you don't mind when things leave the container because you realize, well, I'm not that. I think this is why relationships can be so hard because we get so identified with who we are in that aspect because that's what's in the container, that if that relationship were to end or the person passes away or something happens, we have this massive loss because we've been so identified. We forgot that we were the container that was holding that space. Glad you all are loving this. Thank you, Lou. I know. I love to teach. So hopefully, I think, like with what Eckhart Tolle is saying in this book, to me, I need analogies. Like it's so deep, it's so profound that if you don't have this like context, to me, like I need visuals to understand what he's saying. Are these visuals helpful to you? Huge insight here for you. Good. Put a 7 in the chat if you got an insight through what I shared today, or maybe just from this chapter. Put a 7 in the chat. I'd love to hear if this hit for you. I know some of you are delayed, so I'll give it a little bit of time for the chat. And we've got a couple of minutes left. Karen says very, very deep. I want to see. There was so much good stuff in this chapter. I think we could have a book club for a year just on chapter 1. But I wanna end with this. So I'm seeing lots of 7s in the chat. All 7 with tears. Aw. Sending you love, Tina. I'm happy. Like that's when it hits, when your soul recognizes the truth of what's being shared, it hits on a very deep level. And those tears, let them be there. No judgments. Like that's like the soul's recognition of truth. That's what you just had, Tina. Candy said she had to read this chapter 3 times. Yeah, that's why we're discussing it, because it's deep. I mean, this is deep stuff. And I want to talk about, he talks about connecting with emotion. He says, you say that an emotion is the mind's reflection in the body, but sometimes there's a conflict between what the mind says and what the emotion says. And so what do we listen to? And Eckhart Tolle, I'm on page 22, he says, the thought will be the lie, the emotion will be the truth. Wow, wow, wow. The thought is the lie, the emotion is the truth. This is wild. I want to try this with you. Let's just see how it is. It's going to be a quick exercise. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to just take a couple of deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Just allow yourself to be in this moment, be present. Let all the chatter, all the insights just sit aside for a moment. And I want you to ask your body, what does yes feel like? And just sit quietly. Something will come. What does yes feel like? For me, yes feels like some fluttering in my heart. What does yes feel like for you? Put it in the chat when it comes. And then I want you to go back in and take a few deep breaths. And I want you to ask the body, what does no feel like? For me, no feels like a little constriction in my throat. That's where I feel no. Okay? Now, I want you to ask the body, go back in, what does maybe feel like? Oh, wow. For me, I don't know if I was just moving, but for me, it's like energy moves from here to here in my body. That's maybe. Like, I feel like this arm going, then this arm going. Like, that's maybe for me. Okay, so I'm seeing things. Some of you are feeling spaces in the heart are your yes. Warmth, Karen has, is her yes. Lou feels weakness in the knees, tension for no. Excellent. So this is something, this is a tool now you can use. Start easy. Start easy. And ask yourself, ask the body, is water something that you need? Water, something simple. The body will tell you yes, no, or maybe it says maybe. All right, you can ask your body, is this what's best? Would this best serve you right now? And see what you get. Play around with this. This is an exercise that you can do anytime to help you make decisions. You know, your body, your emotions, as he says, the thoughts are the lie, the emotions are the truth. And how do you get in touch with the emotions? You quiet the mind and you ask. All right, you quiet the mind and you ask. This is a really powerful technique. All right, put it in the back pocket. This week, throughout the week, I want you to use it. And I would love to hear next week, you know, some situations where you've gotten to use it. And it's amazing when we just quiet ourselves. We know, right? They say like a mother's intuition, right? Moms just kind of know sometimes what to do. Why? Because they're feeling the answer. Shar says, my body likes to answer. Yeah, it does. It's like, hey, I'm always here and you're never paying attention to me because this thing up here is always going. It's physical intelligence. It's not mental intelligence. Yeah, well said, Lou. Well said. That's going to take us through for the end of today because we're out of time. Next week, we're going to get into chapter 2. Again, guys, if you found this valuable, tag a friend, share it on your own page, invite people to our book club. These insights can change people's lives. I know today Tina said that it brought tears to her eyes because this is the truth of everything. When you understand what he's talking about, I think this is the essence of it all. So chapter 2 in my book is page 27 up until page 38. So it's 11 pages. This book, I'm like, I need 1 page a week because we can talk for forever. We're going to try and get through 11 pages next week. And I will meet you back here, same time, same place. I will put the assignment of what we're reading in Telegram. So I loved how Juliet this week kind of pulled her favorite quote and what got her thinking from the assignment. Go there. And Lou says, I got to get our third sister with us. Yes, invite her, please. Invite whomever, share this on your pages, get the word out there. I think the insights that we talk about can change people's lives, and I would love to do that. And I am grateful for each of you being here, and I will see you next week. I wish you a wonderful week, and don't forget to ask your body throughout the week in different situations, whatever's coming up. Take a moment, say you need to go to the bathroom, right? And then allow yourself of asking for yes, for no, for maybe. And sometimes you need to, redefine and reword what you're asking and how you're asking the body. All right, great information. Thank you. You're welcome, Candy. You're welcome, all of you. I'm grateful that you were here and that we could have this time together. And I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.